And now, on to introducing today's speaker. Jung Kim has a PhD in counseling psychology and a BA in German literature. A related fun fact about June is that the name she uses for her emails, as her username, instead of June Kim, is Alles gut in German. Over the past 25 years, June has worked in diverse clinical settings, including hospitals, police departments, schools, and child protection agencies, providing counseling for PTSD survivors, sexual offenders, and patients with bipolar disorder and major depression. She currently serves as Chief Supervisor for the Korean Counseling Psychology Association and advisor to the National Police Agency. I think that's a first for any of our speakers, advisor to the police, and teaches psychology at Korean universities. Dr. Kim has been studying Jungian psychology for 25 years and is currently a diploma candidate at the Research and Training Center for Depth Psychology, according to C.G. Jung and Marie-Louise von Franz in Zurich. Her research integrates Jungian depth psychology with Korean oral literature, exploring archetypal symbolism across cultural traditions. And so join me now in welcoming June Kim.
Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jun. I come from Korea. First, I want to thank the CGN Club of Orange County for giving me this wonderful opportunity. And I want to express my deep thanks to Judy. She prepared everything for me for today. Judy, thank you so much for all your work. And before I begin, I would like to ask you for your understanding. English is not my first language. My listening and speaking may not be perfect. So today I have prepared a written text and I will read from it. I hope this allows me to share my thoughts more clearly and fully with you. Please feel free to note your questions. We will have time for Q&A towards the end, and I may pause at a few points. If I don't catch your words immediately, I may ask you to repeat. Thank you for your patience. Judy, should I begin?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I will share my PPT. Yeah. Now let me begin. This lecture is a revised version of a material I first presented in Switzerland. The original was two-session lecture, much longer and more detailed. For today, I have brought it together into one session, keeping what I believe is most important. I have worked as a counselor in Korea for the past 25 years. But my meeting with Jung's idea came even earlier than that. When I first opened Jung's book, long before I began my clinical career, something deep inside me responded. I have been working alongside his ideas ever since. I am currently studying at the C.G. Jung and Marie-Louise von Franz Institute in Switzerland. When I began my studies in Switzerland, I had a dream, a young king. A young king, perhaps from Persia or Egypt, was looking down upon his kingdom. He connected horses to various regions to save his people, and water flowed through the horses, making land fertile. This dream was my unconscious responding to my encounter with the West. I obtained water from the sky through a large horse in a place Western origin. And I connected that water to the horse, the actual world I belong to, watering the land. This dream of connecting two words, making water flow, and watering that water make the land fertile. It transformed my feelings about adaptation, which had felt confusing and difficult, into something positive. I hope that today's lecture can be a small waterway crossing between two worlds. Today, I want to talk to you about how symbols in East and West are felt differently through a Korean tiger tale, and why this difference matters in our clinical work. Jung said, Jung said that universal archetypes exist in the collective unconscious of humanity. In the archetypes and collective unconscious, he defines the archetypes as a factor arranging psychic elements into certain images. But Jung also emphasized something important. Archetype itself is empty and purely former. Because of this emptiness, archetypes were completely different across depending to the culture. The same archetype can appear as divine in one culture and as a demonic in another. I learned this not as a concept, but through moments when misunderstanding arose and retranslation was necessary. A few years ago, I was doing work with a friend at Union Institute in Switzerland. My friend told me about Listen Dream. It was a dream in which a huge dragon appeared and threatened him. He said the dream made him anxious. We explored the meaning of the dragon together. Was it shadow to be overcome? Repressed aggression? I hesitated for a moment. Then I said, in Korea, this dream would be seen completely differently. In Korea, when someone dreams of a dragon, people think that people think great fortune is coming. The dragon is a messenger from heaven. It is a symbol of kingship, a promise of abundance. When a pregnant woman dreams of a dragon, the whole family celebrates. In that moment, the air in the room became still. We realized we were looking at the same image, but experiencing completely different worlds. The same archetype affords meanings. Today, I will enter into a Korean tiger story, shows the different most dramatically. In many strands of Western Christian thought, there is often stronger emphasis on transcendence, God above the world, salvation coming from outside, through grace. Good and evil tend to be more clearly distinguished. This is, of course, a bold sketch. There is much diversity within Western traditions. In many East Asian traditions, the divine lives within things. The divine is in the mountains, in the trees, in the rivers within us. Humans are part of nature, and harmony comes not from outside, but from within, not from opposition, but from cycles. Yin and yang give birth to each other. Good embraces evil, and evil transforms into good. This difference is revealed not in philosophy textbooks, but in the air of the therapy room. This is the difference in how people interpret dreams, understand suffering, and experience healing. To understand where the differences come from, we must look into the roots of East Asian culture. East Asia has different languages and religions, but underneath them is a common sense. That sense is a premise that the world is alive, the premise that nature and humans, the individual and invisible, are not served. Of course, East Asian culture is not made of shamanism alone. Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism took deep root, and each developed its own view of the world and ethics. But beneath all these layers, there is the oldest foundation, shamanism and animism. If the Western Christian tradition developed it centered on a God beyond this world and a theology of salvation, East Asian shamanism developed it centered on divinity living within things and the spirituality of all things. In the West, there is a clear boundary between human and God, but East Asian shamanism, the boundary can be crossed. Humans become gods, the gods can appear in human form. Let me give 3 snapshots: Japan, China, and Korea to show one shared premise: the world is alive. In Japan, the indigenous religion is called Shinto, the way of Kami. Kami, a divine spirit believed to inhabit all things: mountains, rivers, trees, rocks, waterfalls, even storms. The ancient Japanese did not build temples at first. They worshipped nature directly. Sacred mountains called Kanabi, striking rocks formation called Iwakura, ancient forces called Himorogi. Before Buddhism arrived in the 6th centuries, there were no shrine with buildings. There were only sacred places in nature where the kami were felt to dwell. Even today in Japan, you can see shimenawa, sacred ropes, wrapped around ancient trees or unusual rocks. This marks the presence of kami. This is not primitive belief. This is the way of seeing the world as alive, as filled with spiritual presence. The Shinto scholar Motsuri Norinaga defines kami as any being whatsoever which possesses some eminent quality out of ordinary and is awe-inspiring. Mountains that soar into clouds, waterfalls that thunder, trees that have stood for 1,000 years, ancestors who lived in exemplary lives, all can be kami. In China, the situation is different, but the foundation is the same. Chinese folk religion is one of the oldest continuous religion tradition in the world. It is not one organized religion, but a vast web of practices: ancestor veneration, worship of local deities, beliefs in spirits of place, divination, and the care of household gods. For concept from the core of Chinese religion, religious experience, Qian, heaven, the transcendence source of moral order. Qi, the breath or energy that animates all things in the universe. Ancestor veneration, the belief that the dead continue to influence the living. And Baoyang, moral reciprocity, the idea that good and evil actions return to us. The Chinese believe that spirits inhabit the landscape. Every village has its worker earth god. Every kitchen has its stove god, who observe the family and reports to heaven. And ancestors, properly honored, become protective presence. Neglected, they can become troublesome ghosts. What is remarkable about Chinese religion is its syncretic nature. Buddhism came from India. Taoism developed its own elaborate theology. Confucianism provided ethics and ritual, but ordinary Chinese people did not choose one and reject the others. They wove them together. A Chinese person might pray to Buddhist bodhisattva, practice Taoist breathing exercise, honor Confucian value of filial piety, and worship local folk deities. All in the same day, there is a saying, three teachings, one family. The synchronism is not confusion, it is wisdom. It reflects a fundamental station inside. The sacred is not confused to one system. Truth can come from many directions, and the individual world is too vast to be captured by a single theology. The Maju belief in Taiwan is a good example. Maju was originally shaman from the Song dynasty. After she died, people believed she became a goddess. Here we see the core of the East Asian worldview. The boundary between human and divine is not fixed. It can be crossed. Korean shamanism, we called it Usok, maybe the oldest and most intense form of this tradition. In my first grade class, the professor asked, who do you think is the biggest competitor of psychotherapist? Student answered, maybe doctors. But the professor said, no, our biggest competitor is Buddha, the shaman. This was not a joke. There was an actual case. A shaman was in a taxi accident in Korea. She went to court. Her claim, the shock of the accident frightened my spirit away. I can no longer work as a shaman. The court ruled in her favor. It ordered payment for her loss of work as a shaman. A Korean court, a modern rational intuition, legally recognized the departure of spirits. This shows how deeply shamanism is rooted in Korean culture. I want to share something personal that shows this worldview from the inside. When I was 5 years old, I lived with my grandmother. Every early in the morning, before first light, my grandmother would give me a small kettle and send me to a spring in the forest. The forest was still and quiet in the early dawn. No street lights, no sounds of cars, only my small footsteps on fallen leaves. The air was cool and fresh, the kind of the air that feels new, as if the world had just been born. As I walked, the sky began to change. A soft light touched the top of the trees. Birds started to call one by one. The forest was waking up around me. I felt as if I had entered the sacred world that only exists at this hour. A world between night and day, between sleeping and waking. Then I arrived at the spring, the water coming from the earth, clear, cold, and alive. In the early light, the water caught a soft glow. That sound, quiet and steady. It was like the earth was breathing, slowly and gently. I filled the kettle. The water was so cold it made my fingers tingle. But The coldness felt alive. It felt like something pure and precious was being given to me. For a small child, carrying the kettle back felt like holding something sacred, as if I was carrying a tiny vessel of something holy, something the forest and the earth has offered me. When I returned home, my grandmother was waiting. She took the kettle with both hands carefully as receiving a treasure. Then she divided the water into small bowls, white porcelain bowls, simple and clean, and placed them throughout the house. One bowl in the kitchen near the stove, one bowl in the backyard, one bowl at the front gate, one bowl beside the jar stand where we kept our soy sauce and bean state. She said there was spirits in each place. 성주신, the goddess who guards the pillars of the house. In tradition, the traditional Korean belief, 성주 reside in the main roof beam and protect the entire household. She is considered the greatest of household gods, guarding the eldest male member of the family and the fortune of the home. 조왕신, the god of fire and the hearth. He watches over the kitchen, where the food is prepared, where the family is nourished. In Korean tradition, Joang observes everything that happens in the household. He knows the family deeds. Some say he reports these deeds to heaven. 태주신, the god who guards the land on which the house stands. Before there is a house, there is a ground, and the ground has its own spirit. 측신, even the toilet has its guardian spirit, a place we think of as lowly or unclean, but in this worldview, every space matters. Every corner of human life is watched over. My grandmother would put her hands together and bow before each bowl, silently but deeply. Her lips moved slightly, perhaps speaking words I could not hear. To a 5-year-old child, this was natural. Grandmother cooking rice, doing laundry, offering water to the spirits. It was all the same daily routine. There was no separation between the ordinary and the sacred. Yeah. But it was also mysterious because when grandmother prayed, the space changed. The air became still, time slowed, something invisible was there. Looking back now, I understand what grandmother was doing. She was maintaining relationship. The anthropologist Laura Kendall, who has studied Korean shamanism for over 40 years, describes how Korean religion practice involves, which she calls the care and feeding of household gods. In her book Shamans, Housewives and Other Restless Spirits, she writes about how Korean women maintained relationships with spirits through daily offerings, not because they feared punishment, but because they understand life as a web of connections, both visible and invisible. This is not theology. This is not philosophy. This is daily practice. This is water offered before dawn. This is hands pressed together in the cold morning air. Scholars have noticed that Korean shamanism represents what Kendall calls an animistic worldview, a belief that spirits inhabit natural objects landscape features, and domestic space, trees, rocks, springs, mountains, all are understood as having Jung, we call it Jung, soul stuff, spiritual presence. But I want to be careful here. The word animism can sound primitive to Western ears. It can sound like a belief system that more advanced religions have moved beyond. I don't think that this is correct. What Korean shamanism represents is not a failure to separate the natural from the supernatural. It represents a refusal to make that separation. It presents a worldview in which the human, the natural, and the spiritual are not three separate categories, but one continuous reality. The Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy describes Korean shamanism as a form of animism that worships natural and believes in spirits, a worldview that preaches alliance with the spirits residing in many objects. This praise, preach alliance, I find very moving. It is not about controlling spirits. It is not about manipulating the supernatural for human benefits. It is about relationship. It is about alliance. It is about recognizing that we are not alone in the world. My grandmother never read Jung. She never heard the collective unconscious, but she lived something that Jung was trying to describe. Jung wrote that modern humanity has lost its connection to the numinous, to the sense of sacred presence in the world. We have explained everything. We have analyzed everything. And in doing so, we have emptied the world of its depth. What my grandmother knew without theory was that the world is alive, that the spring has something to give, that the fire in the kitchen is not just combustion, it is a presence, that the ground beneath our feet holds us not just physically, but spiritually. This is what shamanism teaches, reverence, not reverence for a distant God above crowds, but reverence for what is here, for the water that gives us life, for the fire that warms us, for the earth that holds us, for the house that shelters us. In Korean folk belief, every part of the home, every corner, every function is watched over by a spirit. This means that daily life itself is sacred. Cooking is sacred. Sleeping is sacred. Even going to the toilet is sacred because chicken is there. Why am I telling you this in a lecture about fairy tales and Jungian psychology? Because this is the soil from which Korean tales grow. When we read Korean fairy tales, we are not reading stories created in a vacuum. We are reading stories that emerged from a culture where the invisible world is as real as the visible world, where ancestors speak through dreams, where mountains have spirits, where a tiger can be both terrifying predator and divine messenger. The tiger's Whisker story we will explore today comes from this soil. The woodcutter who goes to the mountain to meet the tiger, he is entering a landscape that is not empty. The mountain is full of presence. The tiger is not just an animal. The tiger is Tanshin, the mountain spirit in animal form. If we don't understand this soil, we will misread the tale. Those dawns taught me one thing, how not to ignore what cannot be seen. This has shaped my work as a therapist. When a client tells me their story, their symptom, their dream, I don't just analyze it, I receive it. Like my grandmother received water from the spring with both hands, with attention, with a sense that something is being given. So, what does this mean clinically? It means that for many Koreans, a dream is not only inner material, it is also a relational event. Because in the end, what Korean shamanism teaches, what Jungian psychology also teaches is this: the invisible world is trying to communicate with us through dreams, through symptoms, through synchronicities, through the images that rise up from the depths. Our task is not to conquer the invisible. Our task is to listen. In Korea, dreams are not simply products of the unconscious. Dreams are letters by the ancestors. They are warning given by spirits. As Jung said, dreams are the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul. In the Western psychology, especially Jungian psychology, dreams are the voice from within. They are messages sent by the self to the ego. The source of dreams comes from inside me. But in Korea folk belief, dreams come from outside, from the afterlife, from the world of ancestors. If a dead grandmother appears in a dream and is angry, a Korean thinks, grandmother is trying to tell me something. Is it because I didn't perform the ancestor rites? And they actually go to perform the rites. They go to the grave, then their mind feels at easy. Jung emphasized that psychic existence is the only form existence of which we have immediate knowledge. When a Korean meets an ancestor in a dream, it may be meeting an archetype in Jungian sense. But to a Korean, that archetype is not an abstract concept. It is a being with a face, a being with a name, a being with a history of a relationship. And that difference can be important in therapy. Korea has a special dream culture called Taemong. Taemong are dreams that happens around the time of pregnancy. Sometimes the pregnant woman herself dreams them, sometimes the husband, mother-in-law, or even a distant relative. And those dreams are believed to tell about the child's future. If you dream of a dragon, a precious son will come. If you dream of tiger, a strong and brave child will come. And if you dream of flowers, it will be a daughter. Tamon contains something deep. The belief that a child is not simply a combination of parents' genes. The child comes from somewhere, from the world of ancestors, from the realm of spirits. The child arrives already carrying a soul, already carrying a destiny. Von Franz said, the child archetype, Von Franz said that the child archetype represents the early not yet conscious layer of the collective psyche. The imagery of a child appearing in a tamong shows how the collective unconscious experience the life of a new life. What archetypal meaning it gave to their life. In clinical work, this is important. When a Korean client talks about tamong, they are talking about their destiny, identity, relationship with parents, in connection to the invisible world. Many Korean creation myth, tales, and legends features liberations through dreams. In Korean life, dreams are not simply psychological events, but events that carry reality. In the Shilla period, a woman dreamed of climbing Sorak, a sacred mountain of Silla, and urinating, waiting all over the country. Her sister bought the dream with a thick skirt, but and after that, she bought the dream. She became a queen of the Silla, and so many Korean said it's a real dream. The dream is real. Jung said that dreams do not predict the future, but shows the process currently operating in the unconscious. The point is that in Korea, dreams are experienced as both images with me and at the same time as languages of relationship and destiny. This way of experiencing changes interpretation in the therapy room. Korean shamanism does not exist alone. Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism entered and mixed and changed form. Confucianism brought ancestor veneration, but in Korea, meeting with shamanism, it became more intense. The food on the ancestor altar is not merely symbolic. It is experienced by many as what ancestors actually received. Buddhist bodhisattva merged with shamanistic goddess. In Korean Buddhist temple have sanshingak, the mountain spiritual lines. They are inside the Buddhist temples, but what is honored there is not Buddha, but mountain spirit. People pray before Sanshindo, mountain spirit painting, showing a white-bearded old man and a tiger together. Taoist immortals become mountain spirits. All these religions live together within a single Korean tale. This is not confusion. This is richness. And these cultural diversities and backgrounds created the special characters of Korean tales. Jung emphasized that the seat of faith is not doctrine, but direct religious experience. Korean religious experience is full of such directness. Because of this cultural background, Korean tales have different qualities from Western tales. In Western tales, animals mainly appear as characters representing human traits or as tools for moral lessons. The fox in Aesop fables is a symbol for teaching about cunning, but in Korean tales, animals are spiritual beings in themselves. In the animistic worldview of shamanism, animals are beings with souls and sometimes served as bridges between gods and humans. That is why Korean tales have an overwhelming number of stories with animals as main characters. Looking at papers and that classify tail types, animal main character, stories number at least 800, and tiger stories among them estimate at roughly 300 or more. Tigers actually lived in Korea until the Joseon dynasty. Tigers directly affected Korean life. People saw tigers, people died by tigers, people feared tigers, people respected tigers. This is a big difference from the West. In the West, tigers are exotic animals, something seen in books or pictures. But in Korea, tigers are neighbors, dangerous neighbors, but neighbors all the time, all the same. This is why tiger in Korean tales is very complex. First, tigers are frightened. 보한. Hohan, we said Hohan, tiger disaster. The records of Joseon dynasty are full of accounts of people killed by tigers. In the 1980s, when videotape first entered Korea, something interesting happened. The original English warning was about legal punishment, but the Korean translate warning messages were different. Before every movie started, this appeared on the screen. The crime of illegal copying is more terrifying than Wuhan or smallpox. All Koreans, including myself, took that expression more seriously than fearfully than legal warnings. Wuhan was scarier than the law, you see, and it actually worked. Tigers disappeared from Korea nearly 100 years ago, but Wuhan is still printed on Korean bodies. This is cultural memory. This is the collective unconscious. Second, tigers are mountain spirits. In the Sanshingak of Buddhist temples, a white bearded old man and a tiger are painted together. People play there. Um, Third, tigers are easily tricked by weak animals. Rabbits trick tiger with wisdom. Magpies trick tigers with cleverness. But tigers don't get angry. Later, they help those weak animals and sometimes give themselves for them. This is generosity of those with power. Korean believe that true power is helping the weak. Fourth, tigers are friends. In folk paintings, tigers are often smiling. They are with magpies. The magpies and tiger painting is Korea's most beloved folk art. The day after I told this tale for my talk, something interesting happened. A friend called. She is a painter. She said she had completed her first painting and wanted to give it to me as a gift. The painting was a tiger. I was amazed. I hadn't I had not told anyone my lecture topic, but on that day and that very day, she painted a tiger and wanted to give it to me. Jung said uh, that the unconscious seemed to act as though it were not limited by space and limit time. When I was deeply involved with the tiger story, I activated the tiger archetype, and that archetype also worked in my friend's unconscious. This cannot be proven in the usual way, but it can be recognized. William Breaks The Tiger shows well how Westerners see tigers. Tiger, tiger, burning bright, in the forest of the night, when immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful summer tree. To break, the tiger is a mystery both beautiful and fearful, majestic yet dangerous. But above all, the tiger is an object existing in imagination, exotic, distance removed from actual life. To Westerners, tigers are animals seen in books or pictures, creatures that raise theological questions. How do beauty and terror live together in God's creation? The tiger is an object of thought, not an object of relationship. To Koreans, tigers are completely different. Tigers live in the mountains, the very mountains we live in. The tigers ate our ancestors, but tigers also protect us as mountain spirits. Tigers are not distant mysteries. Tigers are neighbors, dangerous but respected neighbors, frightening but sometimes merciful neighbors. Koreans live with tigers. Actually, they live for the thousands of years. Von Franz repeatedly emphasized this point. The more complex uh, the more complex the symbol appears in a fairy tale, the closer uh, it may be to touching a layer of numinous. Korean tigers are very complex because Korean experience tigers directly. Now, let me tell you a tale where all these stories meet at one point. I want to first talk about the title of today's story. In English-speaking context, this story is commonly translated as the tiger's whisker. This makes sense. Whisker is a familiar word, and it captures the images of long hair on tiger's face. But in Korean original, the word used is eyebrow, 눈썹, and I believe understanding this original meaning as a layer of depth of the tail. A whisker is a sensory organ, a tool for feeling, exploring the surroundings in darkness. It is connected with touch, with navigation, but an eyebrow is the part of the eye. In Korean and Chinese culture, long eyebrows are a symbol of wisdom. Especially white brows means deep insight. Bang me. Mm, up. I'm sorry. Mm. Bang me. By me. White eyebrow is term of for outstanding person. Long eyebrows signify long life and wisdom. So in Korean original, what the tiger gives is not a tool for touching the world. What the tiger gives is ability to see, to perceive essence, to discern truth. The English translation whisker works well, but knowing the Korean meaning of eyebrow helps us understand the psychological function of this gift, not tactical orientation, but visionary discernment. This is why I choose the title from through the lens of the tiger's whisker, honoring the familiar English translation while inviting you to see through the tiger's eye. The tiger's whisker is one of the Korean's most famous tiger stories. Once upon a time, there was a very hard-working woodcutter. He worked from the dawn until night. He was not lazy. He did not drink alcohol. He did not gamble. He was a perfect man. The village magistrate noticed him. The young man is hard-working and honest. I will make him my son-in-law. The magistrate married his daughter to the woodcutter. In most tales, this is a happy ending, but this story is different. After the marriage, everything started going wrong. Everything the woodcutter did failed. His axe broke. His goods did not sell. His crops dried up and died. He and his wife became poorer and poorer. They became beggars. The woodcutter thought it would be better to die than live like this. He went to the mountain, deep into the mountain where Tiger lived. He decided to die. Deep in the mountain, he met a tiger. It was an old tiger, a tiger with a long white whiskers. The woodcutter said, "Tiger, please eat me. I no longer wish to live." But the tiger shook his head. The tiger said, "I do not eat real humans." The tiger pulled out of his eyebrows and gave it to the woodcutter. "Look at people through this, then you will see the truth." The woodcutter returned the village with the tiger's eyebrow. He looked at people through the eyebrow. He was shocked. People appeared as animals. Some were cows, some were dogs, some were pigs. And he returned home and looked at his wife. His wife was a chicken. The woodcutter fell into deep sorrow. The person I married was a chicken. That was why our life has been so unhappy. A few days later, a fur-sold merchant couple came to the village. The woodcutter looked at them through the tiger's eyebrow. The salt merchant was a rooster, but the salt merchant's wife was a real human. The woodcutter thought, "My wife is a chicken, that man is a rooster, and that woman is a real human like me." That night, the woodcutter could not sleep. He struggled with whether to tell his wife the truth. He was afraid. He was confused. All night he walked around the room, thinking and thinking again. Dawn began to break. Morning came. The woodcutter finally made up his mind. He went to his wife's room to tell her the truth. But the room was empty. His wife had already left with the salt merchant. They laughed together at dawn, chicken and rooster. They had recognized each other. The woodcutter met the salt merchant's wife, who was left behind. She was alone too. They talked, they understand each other. The woodcutter married her. Real human and real human came together. After that, the woodcutter's life completely changed. Everything he did went well. They became wealthy. They became happy. People say the salt merchant and woodcutter's first wife also lived happily. Chicken and rooster. They to find their matches. Similar stories are told in various countries across East Asia. In India, a man gets an animal's hair and sees his wife's past life. His wife was a bear and he was a lion. In China, A hunter sees people through a tiger's whisker. He discovers that an outwardly repeated official actually has a corrupt nature. In Japan, a full man gets a wolf's eyebrow and sees the village rich man. Through outwardly, he appeared stingy. He was actually a generous man. He became the rich man's heir. The Korean version has a different starting point. The story begins not with the lack, but with the success. The hard-working woodcutters married the magistrate's daughter. All conditions are perfect, but this very thing is the beginning of unhappiness. The Korean version shows that perfect outside conditions do not guarantee inner truth. Now, let us look more closely at what this story is telling us. I'd like to walk through the tale step by step through the lens of Jungian psychology to see what each part shows about the inner journey. Confronts so the woodcutter as an archetypal figure serving as a bridge between nature and culture, the unconscious forest and conscious village. The woodcutter's work is to cut trees in the forest and bring them to the village. This is the metaphor for the work of making conscious, changing unconscious content into conscious form. The woodcutter lives at boundaries between forest and village, between unconscious and conscious. And in this story, the woodcutter is hardworking. He perfectly shows the values recognized by collective hard work, sincerity, honesty. The magistrate recognizes the woodcutters and gives him his daughter. I see this magistrate as a symbol of the collective consciousness. The magistrate represents society's values, standards, and rules. And his daughter is the femininity approved by the collective consciousness. The image society defines as a good life. Jung emphasized that when the animal is not recognized, it remains in projection, and a man experiences his own feminine side in the woman around him. The woodcutter does not know his true anima. He accepts the femininity approved by the collective, daughter of a good family, suitable spouse. But this does not match his true inner self. Result, everything fails. Everything the woodcutter does fails. This is not just material poverty. This is the psychological poverty between the woodcutter and the magistrate's daughter. There is no genius connection. Their marriage is social approval, suitable but hollow, approved but lifeless. Woodcutter decide to die. Jung said, it is quite right that in unconscious psychology, death is just as important as birth. The woodcutter going to the mountain to find the tiger is not suicide. This is giving up of the ego. He says, I cannot no longer live my way. This is an essential moment in the individual process, the moment when the ego accepts its own inability. The woodcutter tried everything. He worked hard, but nothing worked. The problem was not lack of effort. The problem was direction. He went in the direction the collective consciousness pointed, but his self was pointing somewhere else. Now he gives up. He lets go of conscious control, and he gives himself to the unconscious. He enters the forest, the realm of the unconscious, and there he meets the tiger. In this tale, tiger is not an ordinary tiger. This tiger is old, it has white whiskers, and it speaks. This is the mountain spirit tiger, a spirit guarding the mountain. Jung defines the numinous as an influence of invisible presence that causes a particular change of consciousness. The woodcutter meeting the tiger is meeting numinosum, something greater than himself, something sacred. And the tiger does not kill him. Later, it gives a gift. The tiger said, I do not eat real humans. The tiger, the unconscious, the self, accepted the woodcutter because he let go of the conscious ego and chose death. The woodcutter no longer tried to solve problems through the conscious effort. He accepted the death of the ego. This is authenticity. He faced his suffering with complete honest, no masks, no excuses, no avoidance. So the tiger gives him a tool that makes new insight possible, a tool that opens new eyes. The tiger gives one of its eyebrows. The tiger's eyebrow gives the ability to see essence. Pope Francis emphasized Pope Francis emphasized this point. The power to see essence comes not from intellectual knowledge, but from dimension of intuition. This is not analysis. This is intuition, knowing through experience, not through concept. Now the woodcutter sees not people outside appearance, but in a natural. The woodcutter looks at his wife through tiger's eyebrow. His wife was a chicken. The chicken is a very familiar animal. It has lived with humans for thousands of years, but chicken is still animal. Chicken have wings but cannot fly. They are between heaven and earth, but tied to the ground. In Korea, a rooster crow announces dawn, a sign of a new beginning. But the chicken itself does not cause change. The chicken merely announces. Jung one that when the animal is not recognized, it becomes independent and can overwhelm a man with uncontrolled emotions. That the woodcutter's wife is a chicken means his anima is still an undifferentiated state, not made conscious, not differentiated. This is why Woodcutter tried everything but failed. His wife was not his true anima. She was an image approved by the collective consciousness, familiar but undifferentiated. The woodcutter learned the truth. He cannot sleep all night. He walks around the room. He struggles. Should he tell his wife? Should he remain silent. He is caught in a problem with no answer. Both sides seem impossible. In psychological type, Jung said, life's greatest and most important problems are all basically without solution. They can never be solved, only outgrown. Jung's without solution means there is no answer through the logic of consciousness. The conflict of opposites is not resolved by constant and conscious choice. It is only gone beyond the higher dimension, the self. The woodcutter's problem cannot be solved by consciousness. Cannot be solved by logic. He waits. Jung emphasized that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. The woodcutter, staying awake all night, is holding the tension of opposite, an important concept Jung spoke of. He did not decide too quickly. He did not run away out of fear. He endured discomfort. He endured the uncertainty. And in the ending, in this enduring, space is created for the unconscious to work. A few days later, a poor salt merchant couple appeared in the village. Salt! This is an important symbol. Um, in Korea, salt is made by holding sea water in the salt field and letting it crystallize through the sunlight and wind. A process of change. The field is the solid. In Korea, salt also has a purifying power. Salt drives away bad energy, but salt is also the essence of the sea, the unconscious, the material, the collective unconscious, made concentrated. From a Jungian perspective, salt is a principle of making things fixed, the crystallization of wisdom from the fluid chaos of the unconscious. That the salt merchant appears means the unconscious is responding. Clarity comes out of chaos. The woodcutter looked at the salt merchant couple through the tiger's eyebrow. The salt merchant was a rooster, but the salt merchant's wife was a real human. And the salt merchant's wife, a real human, is the woodcutter's true anima, not an image approved by the collective, but a partner chosen by his self. When dawn came, the answer also came. But the answer did not come from woodcutter's consciousness. That answer appeared from outside as fate. His wife already left with the salt merchant, chicken and rooster. They recognized each other. And the salt merchant's wife, who was left behind, a real human, she was there. All partners found their places. Woodcutter plus salt merchant's wife, first wife plus salt merchant, human with human, animal with animal. This is not a simple happy ending. This is the symbol of inner integration. Jung emphasized that the joining of opposites is the central problem of individuation. It appears as marriage of sun and moon in alchemy, as the integration of consciousness and unconscious in psychology. The woodcutter's meeting with his true anima is an inner marriage, the alignment of ego and self, the cooperation of consciousness and unconscious. And now I want to name what made the difference between the two marriages. Jung said, Eros is the creator of all higher consciousness. Without Eros, consciousness dies, creativity stops, life becomes empty. In the first marriage, there was no Eros, only social approval. The woodcutter accepted the femininity approved by the collective. There was no genius connection, no real meeting between the two souls. That is why there was poverty. In the second marriage, there is eros. There is a genius recognition. There is a self's choice, not society's. And from this genius connection, everything flows. Wealth, happiness, creativity, life. Conference emphasized that eros is the drive toward union with the other. Without it, we remain isolated and cut off from the flow of life. This is the core of this tale. The tiger's eyebrow does not give the woodcutters money or power. It gives him the ability to see who is real, and that seeing makes errors possible. I have seen similar processes in my clinical experience. Let me share two cases. Details have been altered to protect confidentiality. Oh, oh. A male client in his early 20s was caught on extreme mood swings, deep depressions, angers, and distrust of people. For the first few months, he constantly blamed others for his unhappiness. Parents, society, the school system, friends, everything was problem. Eventually, his psychiatry and I also became the problem. He did not trust us. He thought we were the people who'd betray him. The more he put the cause outside himself, the worse his symptoms became. He became more isolated, angrier, more desperate. Then one day he told me about a dream. In the dream, the people started dying. The first, his father died. Then the next day, his mother. Then the next day, a friend. For several nights, he had such dreams. Someone died every night. At first, he was not greatly disturbed, but it gradually became vivid. Death felt too real. Their faces, their last breaths, even funerals, everything felt real. And finally, in the dream, he himself died. He said he felt in a way he could not explain. He felt himself truly dying. His breath stopping, light fading, everything ending. After that dream, he told me he felt two things at once: deep fear and deep humanity. The fear came from truly feeling, for the first time, that life could end, that everything he took for granted could disappear. And the humanity came from realizing how small his ego was in the face of something so much larger. That fear changes him. It brought him into therapy with a seriousness he had never shown before. He stopped missing sessions. He took his medication on time, and the humanity made him willing to change it, truly, fully, not just at the surface. The combination of fear and humanity opens him in a way I think I pushed every away. When he said this, his voice was quiet, but I could feel something had shifted. The wall between us was gone. Jung said the death of the ego is a necessary condition for the birth of the self. This client's dream showed the process. All the people he blamed died one by one, and finally he himself, his ego also died. From the death, something new was born, an ego that can take responsibility, an ego that can form relationship, an ego that can accept healings. This is like woodcutters going up to the mountain to meet tigers. The woodcutter also went to die, but at the edge of that death, transformation happened. There was a young woman who refused to go to school from the age of 13. For 7 years until she was 20, she did not leave her house, not once. The outside world was too frightening. People was too frightened. She stayed in the room, in her house, in a small, safe space. When she finally came to therapy, she was trying to take her first step back into world. It was terrifying for her. Every small thing required enormous courage. About 3 years into our work together, she had a dream. In the dream, she was in the forest. Deep in the forest, there lived a lion. This lion had left the human world because he hated it. He lived alone in the forest, away from people. She met this lion slowly. They became friends. One day, said to the lion, "Come with me. Let's go to the place where human lives." Together, the lion looked at her. Then he pulled out 3 of his whiskers and gave them to her. She ties the 3 whiskers around her waist, and with the lion beside her, she gathered her courage. Together, they walked down from the forest to the village where humans live. When she told me this dream, I was deeply moved. Did you see the parallel with the tiger whiskers story? In the Korean tale, the woodcutter goes to the mountain to die. The tiger gives him an eyebrow, a tool to see sense, to see truth. In this young woman's dream, she goes to the forest to find courage. The lion gives her whisker, a tool to carry strength with her to face the world she fears. The tiger's eyebrow gives insight. The tiger's whiskers give courage. Both are the gifts from the wild, from the unconscious, from something greater than the conscious ego. After this dream, her life began to change. But change takes time. Real changes take a long time. Her path was slowly, step by step, fall and rise again. But she had something that carries her through, a deep trust in the unconscious. She believed in her dream. She believed in the lion, and the trust gave her strength to keep walking. These two cases show two aspects of the journey we see in Tiger's Whisker story. In both cases, the unconscious responded to genius need, not to clever question, not to intellectual curiosity, but to real suffering, honest faith. The tiger does not eat real human. The lion gives his whisker to someone brave enough to ask. This is why I have learned in 25 years old clinical work. The unconscious responds to authenticity and responds to those who have truly given up their ego's control, and responds to those who are brave enough to enter the forest and make friends with what lies there. The core of what I wanted to share today is this. The archetype is like an empty vessel. The vessel itself is universal. Every culture has the vessel, but what is put into vessel that differs by culture. The dragon in West is filled with evil. The dragon in Korea filled with the divinity. The vessel is the same. The contents are opposite. When we listen to a client's dream, we must know both the form of the vessel and what is inside. Knowing only the form becomes abstract theory. Knowing only the contents become cultural relativism. When we know both, we practice through archetypal psychology. My analyst is Swiss, but she asks deeply about Korean meanings of things appearing in my dreams. When a tiger appears, she asked what tigers are in Korea. When ancestors appear, she asks what ancestors are to Koreans. What salt appears, she asked how salt is made in Korea. What is the meaning it carries? Through those questions, I rediscovered the depths of symbols I took for granted, and she encounters another world beyond Western symbolic systems. So we expand each other's consciousness. She comes to know Korean tigers, and I come to understand Western dragons in a new way. And what is remarkable is that the more deeply we explore cultural differences, the more we eventually arrive at the same place in the deep layers, death and rebirth, giving up the ego, encounter with the numinous, discovery of the true partner. This is the archetype. At the beginning of this lecture, I told you about my dream in Switzerland, a young king connecting horse to the different lands, making water flow, making the earth fertile. That dream was about this moment, about today. I came from Korea carrying water, the water of Korean tales, Korean symbols, Korean ways of experiencing the invisible world. And you are here carrying your own water. Today we connected our horses, water flowed between us. I don't know what will grow from this, but I trust that something has been planted. I began this lecture with my grandmother and the spring. The memory is the root of everything I have shared today. The quiet forest, the fresh water, the white balls, the gentle players, all of it taught me before I had any words for it, that the invisible world is real, and our task is to stay in connection with it. As a therapist, as a student of Jung, and as a Korean, I have tried to do one thing, to do to go to the spring and bring back what is given. And now I offer what I found to you. And tiger is waiting in the forest, on the mountain, in your dreams. The tiger does not eat real person, humans. The tiger has a gift for those who come with a genius need. May you find your tiger, and may you see through its eyes what you were always meant to see. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening my lecture.
Oops, I didn't have my audio on. That was really beautiful. Very, very moving. Just very beautiful and very moving. So now we're gonna have Q. And by the way, I figured out, I do update my Zoom regularly, and the price that I pay for that is that Zoom is constantly changing the settings. So I discovered that I didn't have chat set so that people could text me, as I said at the beginning, but I fixed that. But yeah, I did ask that you only do that for technical reasons. So that is what we normally just use it for. So I apologize for that. I also figured out that they added a new setting that the host's video is turned off by default now. So that was not there before. So that's why I couldn't see myself. But I have fixed those settings. And now we can move on to the Q&A. And I will start with Nader Kagani.
Yes, thank you much for an opportunity to ask question. And by the way, we loved your presentation. It was great to see that same concept has various implication in different cultures. And Jung was smart, and he said we allow for that. We allow for different understanding. But let me ask you my question. Yin and Yang in Korea and in the East is understood differently, is understood as harmony. But Jung, on the other hand, did not see it as harmony. He saw it as two opposites that you hold in your hands. And harmony may come or may not come. Did that present any problem in your way of thinking?
Well, I guess I am a Korean, so I am very used to the concept of the yin and yang. The East Asia people are very used to about that concept. So, for example, we called the drawers. In Western world the drawer. But in Korea we said the both side. In one word we have the both meaning. The 서랍, it means draw and pull. So our whole life is always contains the both sides. And also you call the door door, but in Korean the door means push and pull in one word contains the both opposite meanings together. So so for Koreans, it's hard to say the think and say separately the opposite thing separately.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
So Jung did not present any problem for you because, yeah, there are two sides and both exist, and that's that. Huh?
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
much.
you.
Shahrazad.
Hi, Kim. I first want to thank you so much for such an in-depth work, such a rich work, where you didn't leave any stone unturned, how you analyze the symbols in Korea, China, and other Asian countries, and how sometimes they come together or they might have different meanings. It's beautiful. I'm reminded of my sister going to Thailand. She walked into a temple and there were so many corners, and she asked her guide, what does this mean? Which God is present here? Who do you worship? And he said, well, it depends on which room you go in and which corner you go in. As you explained, like every corner of the house, there's a spirit that resides there. There's the god or the goddess that resides there. So that answered my question from her trip. But anyway, I really appreciated how you described the symbols. I want to make sure that I understand the analytic process that you go through with your patients. So I saw that you somehow you go to the Korean symbols, and then you show the connection with the Jungian psychology, but it's a Korean client. And then in the unconscious, there's not really much division, right? So you could analyze the Korean's dream, a Korean patient's dream, through the lens of his or her own psyche, and then draw an understanding in a Jungian way. It seems like it sit well with them, correct?
It's Korean clients. It's easy to understand what she or what he meant to his word, but I learned the Western psychology in in the Switzerland. So, but and so there was a dilemma for me. Well, when I was first days of Jungian study, but I did there uh, there is a two concepts of the archetypes meanings, but in deep and deep and deep, and we go to the deeper on and on, there is a one archetype remains. The branches are always several here and there. Looks goes of many other directions, but the trunk is one. So archetype is like this. So sometimes the tigers, yeah, in Koreans are very, very familiar, and it's a real archetype. But we go deeper and deeper. We meet the Western and Korean is the same things is there. So the important thing is we have to look implication, everything's, but slowly digging the deep root.
Yeah, I saw you doing that with, bringing quotations from Jung and von Franz. Now, I have another question. When you're working with a Western patient, have you ever felt that as a result of them working with you and your understanding of the Jungian psychology, could the psyche of the patient and the analyst influence each other in even what the patient dreams?
Right. Oh, my analyst is Swiss. She is in my religion and her religion is different, and our culture is also completely different. So, but so first time I was hesitated to get how she can understand me. Oh, I don't think so. But after we start our analysis, how can I say? Our analysis more expand our boundaries, and it has contains more the opposite things together, and my souls and my psyche goes widened and go deeper. So the dreams, and the first I told you about my dream, it's very important. I was afraid of Western culture because it was too different, and I was as I was very yeah
Hesitant.
yes. So, but after that dream makes me very relieved myself and go deep into the Western culture, and later it becomes work together, and I can expand my soul and my inner inner frame. It break my inner frame. So it's the same to me and same to my client, maybe.
Yes. Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Some years back, I did have a Japanese client, and I would always ask, what does this symbol mean in your culture, and what does that? So we had to, though he was also familiar with Jungian psychology, we had to kind of bring it together, but I would go with his symbols. So, yeah, beautiful. You've done a beautiful job. It's very rich, it's very in depth. Thank you so much for your work. And it was beautiful to watch, listen to the symbols, and how most, most of all, how there's no, the boundary between sacred and the consciousness of gods and humans are not fixed. And I really understood it better for the first time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and it was actually your description of what you went through with your analyst was very beautiful description. Michael Whitney next.
Yes, I echo the sense of the depth of your knowledge and experience. I'm with the board of the Nashville Jung Circle here in Tennessee, and we've been working over a number of weeks on the book Care of the Soul by Thomas Moore. Is that a book you're familiar with? The piece that strikes me is consonant with your presentation today is that Thomas Moore is relating back to our own Greek, Western Greek heritage, Homer and the Iliad and the Odyssey. But the depth of what Thomas Moore is talking about is what you're talking about. And I feel the aspect of nurturing the soul to be more evident and more alive on a basis that accepts it. And this is a concept that Moore is always driving, that we don't, we're isolated. We don't get into the wet, difficult pieces of what's going on. So I'm going to come back to my group to tell them about you and your work. And just another piece, I was the producer of the film Matter of Heart, and filmed Von Franz twice. So I had a personal, direct connection with her. And, there's something that she talked about that I think you'll resonate with. And it's at the end of the film, Matter of Heart. She talks about being in her tower and next to Jung's tower. And she said, it's here when we finally come to a moment of solitude, that we have a chance for our unconscious to come alive. And I just want to echo that back to you. I'm really touched by the vitality of the myth structure you've described for us. So thank you so much.
Okay, next we have Daniel Lee Kim.
Hi. Very great talk. And okay, it's a two-part thing, and I think you might feel at home what I'm about to present. So I'm going to put this against the screen. And hopefully, I wrote it forwards and backwards. I think June and any other Korean people familiar with the lit might recognize. So actually, that's my Korean name. Yeah, I knew it. I knew you would recognize it. Especially so to kind of bring you up to speed, I'm going to go ahead and say that out loud. It's pronounced Kim Dong-lee. So if you look at the
Yeah.
bottom one, you see like a number 7 that's like at the front on your left side, the bottom line. Yeah, I knew it was going to reverse it, so I had that planned. So the reason why presenter June here finds it significant is actually my Korean name, my name my parents gave me, well, actually it was my great uncle, is that it's actually named after one of the prolific Korean writers. So his work was prominent throughout 1950s all the way to 1980s. So June, my cousin, like knowing that about my Korean name, when he came up from Busan and I was in Seoul visiting, he actually got me a copy of the novel of the Portrait of the Shaman painting. So the Moonhwa, to kind of give a summary for everyone in the group, it's been a while since I read it, but the key moments still hold is that there's a Korean mother with her daughter, and the mother is a shaman teaching her daughter to be a shaman like herself. The thing was, her son comes back. And there's actually a trend in the Korean history that he comes back with Western education and he became a Christian. And so he goes back to his mom, and there's like a conflict between the two worlds. And so there's a translation available for you to see how that unfolds. So I want to see how, especially with what you presented today, June, is like how does that resonate when you have that novel in mind?
Uh, uh, have you ever visited shamans in Korea?
I think I visited a few, but I also visited the museum where they have Kim Dong-lee in, I think it's Gyeonggi or Gyeongju.
Yeah. I know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's Korean shamanism is very complicated because
Yeah.
um, uh, in Korean shamans have two faces. One is very good, as I told you. They are the shamans and connector, the heaven and the earth. But it's a meaning, and their purpose should be like that. But also, every system has the shadow. You know that psychotherapists also have the shadow, and it's the same thing that the shadow thing is very evil thing, money and power.
Mm.
So in Korea, oh yes, but Daniel, if you give me a text or email to me, I will talk with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured, like, I just wanted to let you know, like, oh, this is interesting to have these two things kind of come together. And
Yeah.
to wrap up my Q&A, so I have a nice thing that everyone will appreciate, and especially when they saw your imagery. So I asked my dad to bring things because he's like in Korea most of the time, and he comes back. This was about like over a decade now, but he brought back
Hmm.
the
Oh
tiger.
yes, yes. There are
And
so
the
many.
tiger matches with your first one of the smiling tiger, so nice and wooden there. Yeah. And I see a heart, so appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see another raised hand, but somebody sent me a chat, a woman named Carrie. The microphone on her computer is not working, so she asked me to ask this for her. And she says, June, thank you for your rich, beautiful, and illuminating presentation. My question is, what guides you in deciding which culture to understand in Analisan's dream symbols?
Dream symbols. I, my dream symbols. Maybe the dreams. The dreams. And how can I say? It's a fate. It's a fate. It's a coincidentally, I met a person who she's a analyst, and we traveled together. And then I entered the Jungian world. And then after that, I studied Jungian psychology. But the symbols, my symbols, how can I say? It's hard to explain. If I have a chance, another chance, I will tell about.
She asks, what guides you in deciding which culture to understand an Analisan's dream symbol? Well, we can move on to the next person. We could come back to that. Victor Zhang.
Oh, thank you for your sharing. Good morning. I'm from China. In Chinese culture, we have the 10 ox herding picture. We know how to communicate with our inner psyche and inner animal archetype. So my question is how to tame or how to communicate with the inner tiger in our psyche.
Oh, inner tiger. Oh, yesterday I saw a movie. It's a Korean movie, and it's not about the tiger movie, but the tigers also appeared in the movie. In Korea's every movies, stories, there comes of tigers. So we are very familiar to tiger. So but many Korean also dreamed about tigers. But stereotypes interpretation is the power, only power, and mysterious and other exotic and archetypes. But Koreans and Chinese, we are differently approach the tigers. And you know that the Chinese and Koreans regard as a tiger very sacred and very spiritual existence. It's not an animal. So we have to see the tiger as a very sacred self. So it's I guess, tame the tiger. I guess no, it's not tamed. Tiger, it just exists itself. So we had to approach the tiger as a very humble attitude. So the tiger will share his eyebrows to you. I don't think we tamed the tiger. It's not happened. In Korean, as a Korean, I don't say tame the tiger. It's a very arrogant for me. So I just suggest that very humbly approach the tiger. Yeah.
Okay, we have some repeat people, and since there's nobody new, I will allow the repeats to come back. Shahrazad.
Hi again. One of the examples that you chose really touched my heart and saddened me. And that was the example of the shaman who had a car accident. And she said her spirit got frightened and left her. Is there a remedy for that? Or have you heard of fairy tales or real stories where she could retrieve her soul back, her spirit back in nature through some shamanistic ritual?
Oh yes, in real shamanism world is very, very hard. Like monks and real shamans practice everyday life like a monk. And so some shamans cannot marry to men, and they practice everyday life. It's very, very divine life. So she have to be careful about her spirit, the ghost. If she lost the ghost leave her, left her, everything failed. So they always cautious to serve the ghost every day. So I saw that in Korea, it's a familiar thing to me, but and all Koreans take it for granted, that kind of things. So, but if their life is not sacred and divine, and they don't practice everyday routines, the ghost leave them. So, yeah.
And how would you compare the Chinese dragon versus Korean tiger? Would you say they are not the same symbol, but how would
Yeah,
you
yeah.
equate them? Can you?
Oh, very similar, but in Chinese and Koreans, very similar to tiger symbols, but in Korea especially more uh, like we regard as tiger, we regard tigers as a god, almost god. And sometimes we said mountain spirits disguised as a tiger. So if you see the Korean movie, there is so many tigers appears, and in the movie we called it mountain gods or the king of the mountain. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
just saw the movie. Sorry, go ahead.
no.
Crouching Tiger and what dragon? I forget the complete name. Have you seen that movie? Crouching Tiger and
Something Dragons. Yeah, it's an old movie.
and what dragon?
I can't remember, but it's something. Yeah,
Something dragon.
something
And I
Dragon.
feel like though I've seen it several times throughout the years. I don't know if you have seen that movie, but I'm thinking if I knew the knowledge I know now, I would have watched the movie differently. So that's a beautiful one to watch. Thank you so much again.
So, it's after 6, and June said she could stay on a little bit, but certainly people are free to leave. I'm going to go to a new person, Al. You need to unmute yours. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, great, awesome. It's couching, I think it's Hidden Dragon.
Hidden Dragon, that was it, yeah.
Yeah, and the first hexagram of the I Ching, it's all about dragons. I think that will probably give give you a lot of symbol reading on dragon in Chinese culture. And I'm Chinese. Um, I I loved your seminar. I feel really, really moved. I just want to mention in in the Ming Dynasty. Well, it's a really famous book in China. It's called The Stories to I think it's The Stories to Awaken the World by Feng Menglong. It's written in the Ming Dynasty, and in it there is a story, like kind of like not necessarily, well, it's a tale. It's a tale about uh, this that also kind of like an honest man. He goes in the forest and helps the tiger, and then the tiger later returned the help and friendliness, and helped him to reunite with his wife. And the title of the story is called The Grateful Tiger Delivers the Bride at Big Tree Slope. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel I very much resonate with what you said, the unconscious response to authenticity, response to genuine need, not cleverness or intellectual stuff. And I also just really, really resonate with the woodcutter that you shared while talking about archetypal. And in Chinese culture, in Journey to the West, I don't know whether you know that, like Monkey King. So when Monkey King, he's trying to find a teacher to teach him, the wisdom of immortality, and he goes into the mountain, and there's the woodcutter, and the woodcutter is like singing the song which was taught by a Taoist master. And that's how Monkey King was led to his, first teacher, and he learned the Tao and all these things from him. I don't really quite have a question, but I just want to share that I feel really, really moved. And even when I'm speaking now, I feel a bit of a buzzing and shakiness. I think I just feel touched. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well,
you.
we have some people coming back. I think that we have Nader and then Daniel, and I ask you to be brief. So then, and then we'll need to stop at that point. So, Nader, go ahead.
Judy, thank you so much for allowing a second question. I'll be very brief since we passed 6 o'clock. Daniel shared with us an image. There was a square and there was a circle. Does that have any significance in your understanding, in your Korean way of relating to it? I'm sorry, did you get my question?
Yes, it's very familiar. It's Korea, in Korea in 1988 there was an Olympic game, and we made a mascot. It's you know that the Korean tiger, Hodori, and Daniel Daniel showed the tiger figures, and yeah, it's very similar, but yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we'll end with Daniel.
All right. And in Korean, I think it should go without saying that it's hodangi in Korean. So that's the Korean word for tiger. And I was born in the year of tiger, so I guess I have to point that out too. Oh, so actually the reason why I want to jump back on the mic is AL there was sharing early about the Monkey King. And if there's one recommendation I have, I hope I wrote this backwards right. It's American Born Chinese by Jean Yang. I recommend that. It's a graphic novel. Style is very minimal and clean, but then I think you might find some union interest in reading that. Yeah, that's all I want to recommend is the American Born Chinese by Jean Yang.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
welcome.
you. Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you so much. This was just a very, very beautiful talk. Yeah, and as Scheherazade said, you left no stone unturned. That's like a feature of some of the Zentrum lectures I've learned that I just love about them, that you look at a story and you just examine every little aspect of it. It's wonderful. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you all again in March for Holly Fincher, another Zentrum. We've got a whole slew of Zentrum speakers coming up. Thank you, June. It was lovely.
Thank you for listening my lecture. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.